Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Senior News Editor of Retail Insider. Joining me today is George Minakakis, who is founder and CEO of the Inception Retail Group. Thanks for joining us today, George.
Thank you, Mario.
Well, some big news the other day regarding Indigo. A privatization proposal has come forward for it. First of all, George, maybe for our listeners here, if you could describe what that proposal is all about.
Sure. So simply, I can't remember the exact names of the organizations, but that they're owned by Jerry Schwartz. He's the major shareholder in them. And within all of those, they control some 60 to 60% of Indigo. So they basically made a pitch to acquire the rest of the shares of Indigo and take it privately, which is not a bad idea.
What? Tell me why. Like, why do you think it's not a bad idea?
When retail brands, unfortunately, if they're in a transition, going through struggles, suddenly, if they're publicly traded companies, they're always in the scrutiny of the media and analysts like myself and people like yourself, right? So getting out of that limelight allows them to focus on getting serious about, more focused on what they have to do internally
Hmm.
and not having to worry about what they need to do to prepare to respond back to the marketplace.
Yeah. So, what do you think? If you're a betting man, is this going to go through?
I think that it will. I mean, if you're a shareholder, are you going to bet that Indigo is going to be around another 2, 3 years? Well, that's, like anything today, that's a big if because the stock has been diving, right? The company's had a number of issues and certainly an identity crisis in terms of the consumers and because business has not been as great as they'd hoped for. It needs to go through a transition. But so I think that shareholders will, except for maybe a couple of hard ones that might just want more money, um, it'll go through. But you know what? There is something that says that if someone else comes in with a better offer,
Mm,
they have to, management has to look at it.
yeah. So, I don't know if this is an issue or not. Maybe you could talk about it. But Gerald Schwartz is married to Heather Reisman, who is the founder and CEO of Indigo and also on the board. Does that present issues, problems?
You know what, Mario? What's interesting is if you look at Loblaws, the family has a majority share, right? And you look at a lot of other companies in Canada, the same thing. Families have majority shareholders through their trust companies or directly. So it's not odd. It's Canada,
Yeah.
right? So it's not. I mean, in the U.S. it might be a different story and not be looked favorably upon, but in Canada it's just kind of the way it is. So I think that it doesn't bother me at all. As if I was an investor, it wouldn't. People put their money in there knowing that they had a major share.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the company itself. And you've alluded to some of that, what's happened in the past year or so with the company. First, they've gone through some executive changes. What impact does that had on the business?
Executive changes to me is like being the pitcher on a mound, right? I mean, you've probably you've thrown 6 good innings,
Yeah,
and your arm's getting tired, and they saw the seventh inning going, not good, right? So it's time to pull him before he damages that arm or loses the game.
yeah,
So that's normal in retailing and any industry, by the way, that you've reached a point. But there are some of these transitions that have happened with executives that have been pretty quick. Somebody joined them 2 years ago. I can't remember the time frame, and they're gone all of a sudden. So
yeah,
there's something that he said about the direction of the company that the board may not be happy with it, and saying, no, this isn't working. We need to move forward and go somewhere else.
yeah. Now let's not forget too that I think it was almost about a year ago they had a massive cyber attack. Uh, what do you think, happened to the company after that? Or do you think there's any lingering things in the consumer mind because of that?
Consumers are petrified of being attacked by some cyber company. I mean, I'm constantly looking at my computer and my phone and wondering what's that email? I've never seen it before. So, you know, I really do believe that companies have a fiduciary duty to the public, that if you share your information with us, it's protected, right? And same with employees. You share your personal information with us, it's protected, and that it's not going to be stolen by someone. So
Yeah,
organizations, but it's not easy. Look, I sit on a board, on a for-profit board, and it's not an easy task, right? I mean, you've got a lot of backup systems in there. If somebody tries to hold you ransom, you can shut it down and reboot it and put everything back in again. But you could get caught too, right? And you got caught off guard. Somebody's had enough time to take information. So it's damaging to a brand over time, particularly how big that might be,
yeah.
right? Do I think that that has hurt them? Maybe to a small degree. I don't think it's been everything.
Yeah. Now, the other thing too that they've gone through, and I think it was just last month, there was a number of layoffs throughout the company, although we don't know how many, but it was all to, the reason given, streamline operations. What do you think that signals?
Transformations, a big transformation coming up. Look, yeah, so it's a sign, it's also a sign of the times, Mario, in retailing today, right? I mean, in a lot of companies, there's a lot of layoffs happening.
Yeah.
But in Indigo's case, there's a transformation that has to happen anyway. And I'm hoping that, taking this private starts initiating that major transformation that can bring this brand back to life. You and I have been around long enough. We've heard the saying, too big to fail, right?
Mm,
In Indigo's case, and for Indigo in Canada, their case is it's too important to fail. We
mm.
can't allow it to fail. When you look at it culturally, who else sells books? Who
Yeah.
else sells Canadian culture, right? They
Yeah.
do. There's a lot of independents out there, but collectively, as a brand, they lead the way. So you can't let this brand fail. And I would worry, I'd be very worried if there is no transformation and they suddenly sell it to somebody else who is not interested in that except for maybe milking it. That would be a bad situation for Canada, but those things happen. So I believe that the ideal situation here right now is that if these layoffs are part of a transformation that's about to take place, I hope they really are thinking about a couple of very important issues. One is that they start becoming a technology company first. It is something that's very important. I've wondered why they have not embraced that enough in the past. Now is the time. So if they're going to resurface it as an organization that hasn't been in bankruptcy like some do, right? This is a company that can actually resurface with a new view and becoming a technology company first. There's no reason why they can't. And if they can do that, then they have an opportunity to engage the public differently than they have in the past. Here's our new brand story. Here's the new experience. Come on in and see it, right? Feel it, and be a part of it. That isn't the case anymore. That's not what the brand stands for. They've gone through a lot of transitions. I
Yeah.
think at some point, right? They tested makeup, they tested technology and selling technology in the store. They've done a lot of stuff, but their core business is books. They really, and the founder has said she's going to go back to that. Hopefully they can bring it to life in a different way.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Indigo's known for its books, right? From its inception, and now you go into a store and you got everything in there, right? From clothing to home decor stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, from just in a general sense, is that a good move by retailers to branch out into all sorts of other things, or should they just be focusing on what they do best and what they're known for?
That is the first rule, right? You focus on what you do best. And adding those ancillary products to the retail platform isn't a bad idea, right? Provided it's not overdone and then you lose sight of what the brand stands for itself, right? Because it was about books, it was about storytelling. I was surprised that with everything they did, right? They didn't engage authors to come in and do readings, and do virtual book sessions. They didn't do all that stuff. And that surprised me, and I hope that as they rethink their brand and rethink how they're going to merchandise everything, that they bring some of this back to life.
Hmm.
There's a lot of artists out there, Mario, and it's not just people who write books. There are people who write music. There are poets, right? There are cooks. There are all kinds of artists out there. Indigo has an opportunity to bring all that to life because they sell books on every subject.
Yeah.
So how do you masterfully bring that together and get the public engaged? And I think that's their biggest opportunity right now is to leverage technology and tap into the artists out there and bring it all together. And it's an opportunity with kids too
Yeah.
that that they need to bring in.
All right, wonderful. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the privatization proposal, and I think their next financial quarterly results should be coming out fairly shortly. Their Q3, so I'm sure things will be happening around then.
Well, I'm sure that if that happens, that investors will say, "Yeah, you know what? I'll take what you're giving me." So
Yeah,
it all depends what they say.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
it's just the nature of the beast.
All right. Super. Thanks, George, for joining us today.
Mario, thank you. Take care.
All right, wonderful. That was George Minakakis, who is founder and CEO of the Inception Retail Group. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Senior News Editor of Retail Insider. Thanks for joining us today.